And I'm here with Alicia Forde, one of our spiritual directors. As you all know, this year we are trying to interview all of our spiritual directors because people often are asking us, what is spiritual direction? And how is that different from all the other things that I should be getting? So Alicia, thank you so much for being with us today.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you're doing this, Emily.
Let's just begin with something easy, hopefully, which is tell me how you came to be a spiritual director.
That is a good question, which I've given some thought to, and I thought, well, how can I make this short? And I think there are two phases to my being a spiritual director, actually. Phase one was post-seminary when I decided to be trained as a spiritual director, maybe purely for survival reasons. Financial survival reasons. I was doing a half-time ministry and thinking of, well, what skills do I have now that I can use to supplement my income as a recent graduate? And found the Benedictine sisters who had a new program, and I thought, this is it. This is the thing. Shortly thereafter, I started working full-time and found that it was really difficult to do the two. And during the pandemic, and this is maybe a good 10 to 15 years later, I came back to spiritual direction because it felt like a moment in time in which I felt called to be with people in a particular way. And I got really clear on who those people are. I felt called to be with women of color who are doing some kind of ministry, whether formal or informal, as a way of holding them in their healing and holding space for their nourishment, their soul care, given the kind of work that they're doing in the world. And that kind of clarity has made all the difference in my spiritual direction, right? But it took me that long to get there. It took like a first try and then letting it go and then sort of coming back with oh, this is the thing that, is on my heart and that I feel really drawn to, and that I think that I have gifts to offer in this realm. It's been really rich.
Can you say how it's been rich for you?
I think it's Margaret Wheatley who says there's no greater gift. I don't know if this is Wheatley, but there's no greater gift than accompanying and being alongside someone as they unfold in their story. So that's one way. The other way is for my particular client base, those places in which they unfold are rare, right? The places in which they show up allow themselves to be seen, held, cared for. They're fairly rare in their lives. And in that way, it feels like a blessing to be able to be a place in which these folks can do that kind of unfolding, do that kind of, not me holding, but here's a place in which, they're setting aside time to be held by the God that they so deeply believe in. So that too has been a gift. And I think the third way it's been a gift has been surprising to me is I'm Unitarian Universalist. And I've been seeing clients now, I don't know, 4 years or so. And I have felt a big shift in my own faith journey and my own faith life. And I think I can point back to being in relationship with folks who are majority Christian, not all my clients are Christian, but whose faith is like rock solid.
Yeah.
Right. And rock solid in a very like real way. It's not bypassing, it's not pretend, it's real. God is real and alive and present. And for me, it wasn't a, oh, I want that. It was
Mm-hmm.
more of a, I grew up Christian, and it was more of a remembering that and coming back
Mm.
to it and finding
Mm.
myself like going back to the Episcopal Church,
Yeah.
having like a different lived experience
Yeah.
um, of confession,
Yes.
of sin, of like
Yes.
words that I would be like, ew, allergic. But now it's like every single Sunday or the Sundays that I go,
Mm-hmm.
that ritual matters. And it
Mm-hmm.
matters in a way, um, it reminds me that it's not just me. It's not
Mm-hmm.
just up to me. Like
Right.
there's something much larger holding me,
Yes.
no matter who I am, no matter how I show up, no matter what I've done in the last 7 days,
Yes.
that God is still there.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest gift they've given me.
Yeah. What are some of the issues that you see leaders and specifically women of color working on in spiritual direction?
I think because of when I restarted my
Mm.
spiritual direction practice, grief was particularly present
Yeah.
um, for the population that I was working with. And that made sense. And one of the things that's true is that during the pandemic, I, I felt grief and I felt touched by grief, but in my own personal life, I was thriving
Mm-hmm.
because I'm
Mm-hmm.
introverted. I wasn't traveling. I was just home,
Right.
like keeping company with the spirit. And so I had all of this spaciousness to hold and to
Mm.
accompany other people as they move through, various kinds of grief, from the very personal to the kind of existential. So that was one. And I've been with most of my clients since that time. And other things have emerged. Like, what does it mean to do ministry in the margins, right? To do
Yeah.
ministry with populations that are traditionally and historically marginalized, whether it's race or class or sexual orientation. And that comes up quite a bit as a theme.
Mm.
And then you know, I'll say two more things. One is, I think because I'm working with women of color, that there's always conversations about living at the intersections of various
Mm.
identities that
Mm.
must wrestle with systemic oppression.
Mm-hmm.
And that filters into every single session. I mean, how can it not? Um, and I think one of the more painful things is when that systemic oppression grows out of, the institutional church. And what
Right.
do you do with that? How do you hold that, and how do you navigate that when you've given at least your vocational life um, to the church?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then I think the last thing that comes up a lot, and I would imagine comes up for many people, is the care of the soul. There's so many different demands, especially if you're in parish ministry or doing certain kinds of community ministry, which requires you to hustle. When do you even find time
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
do self-care and
Right.
soul care? So that one comes up a lot.
What would be the difference for you in differentiating self-care and soul care?
Mm, man, that's a good question. I wonder if I can answer
Just we're
it.
we're just talking here.
And I think one of the ways in which they're different, and it's not that they don't both require intention, but I think intention is a piece of it.
Mm.
And soul care for me is really about doing the things that reconnect you to a sense of what is greater than you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm.
some people call it God, some people call it the divine, some people call it nature.
Yeah.
But it's being really intentional that that is what you're about,
Yeah.
right? And it's not remembering your smallness, but remembering your interconnectedness.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and so for me, that I think if I had to boil it down to like a single sentence, like that would be it. And so self-care can be soul care,
Yeah,
and self-care can
absolutely.
just be having ice cream. Just like, you know, I selected these cards from Trisha Hersey from her Rest deck. She's the author of Rest is Resistance. And I think one of the reasons that this card in particular spoke to me is it ties in with a quote from this Canadian author who's now deceased, Richard Wagamese. And it's a quote in his book that says, "Keep what is true in front of you." And this card is, "My dreams are," I don't know if you can see it, "My dreams are enough. My existence is enough." But on the back, she says, "You are enough now. Everything you need to craft a rest practice is within you. You are not the problem. Capitalism and white supremacy are the problems. Your work is to liberate yourself from both ways of thinking and being. Resting in a capitalist system is an act of resistance. Every day you can create a moment of rest by daydreaming. Keep resting." I'm always in discernment. And it's like, I've come to discover just the mode of life. And in that mode, how important it is to keep what is true in front of me, which also means discerning what is true. And at its most pure, what is true is I am enough. And so I think when I am in sessions with folks, that is what I want them to remember.
Yeah. Alicia, we conclude every interview with a song. What song is your life's current theme song? Like, and part of it is like, what song do you hear playing in your consciousness today? Or it keeps showing up in your life?
Yeah, so for years, the song, and I'm going to be honest with you, I wrestle with this song. It's a song called "Hold On Just a Little While Longer." And so the first line is "Hold on just a little while longer." The second line is "Everything is gonna be all right." And I'm like, because I can't seem to make it all right. But it's not about me. And I was at a prayer circle a couple of weeks ago, and I played this song, and the second verse is "Pray on just a little while longer." And just somebody after I played it said, "Oh, I sit around just kind of thinking about how horrible everything's gonna be, and is prayer even working?" But the song said, "Pray on, just keep praying on. That part is mine." And I was like, right. Right. So I am here to do what I can, and I might pray with my hands, I pray with my heart, I pray with my words. And then ultimately, it's kind of not up to me.
Yeah. Beautiful. Alicia, thank you for your gift of spiritual care and soul care. It's very much needed in this world.
Thank you.
All right.